Hi, I'm Blair. I never thought a single dinner could change everything, but that's exactly what happened last Sunday. Mom had insisted on our monthly family dinner, the kind where we all pretend to be the perfect family while simmering tensions bubble just beneath the surface. Blair, you're late again, Mom said as I walked through the door, her voice carrying that familiar edge of disappointment. I hung my coat on the rack, already feeling my shoulders tense. Sorry, Mom. The presentation at work ran long. We landed the Anderson account. Dad looked up from his newspaper, his eyes crinkling at the corners. That's fantastic, honey. Isn't that the account you've been working on for months? 3 months, I said, unable to hide my pride. The team pulled it off, but my strategy was what sealed the deal. Mom barely glanced up from arranging the flowers in the center of the table. Emily called earlier. She's been asked to be the keynote speaker at that charity gala next month. Governor's going to be there and everything? That's great, I said, forcing a smile. Where is Em anyway? Running late, Dad said, folding his newspaper. Something about her agent calling about a new opportunity. Mom beamed, practically glowing. Your sister is really making a name for herself. Such important people know who she is now. I nodded, helping myself to a glass of water. The Anderson account will bring in about $2 million in revenue for my firm this year. I'm up for junior partner now. That's nice, dear, Mom said dismissively. Emily's charity work is really changing lives, you know, not just making money for some company. Dad shot me an apologetic look. Blair's work is important too, Karen. The doorbell rang and Mom practically sprinted to answer it. Emily, there's my girl. My sister swept in like a celebrity, all perfect hair and designer clothes. Sorry I'm late, everyone. The call with the foundation went long. They want me to be their new spokesperson. Oh my goodness, Mom clutched her chest. That's incredible. Dinner progressed predictably. Emily dominated the conversation while Mom hung on her every word. I mentioned my promotion possibility again, hoping for some acknowledgement. Junior partner, huh? Emily said, twirling pasta around her fork. That's cool. I turned down a partnership at Dawson and Reed last year. Didn't want to get stuck in the corporate world, you know. Not everyone has the luxury of turning down opportunities, Em, I said quietly. Girls, let's keep dinner pleasant, Dad interjected. Mom raised her glass. To Emily's new spokesperson position, we are so proud of you, honey. What about Blair's account? Dad asked. Mom waved her hand. Oh, that too, of course. But Emily's really making a difference in the world. I felt something inside me shift as I watched my mother's dismissive gesture. 28 years of this treatment, and something was finally breaking loose. You know, Emily said, my foundation work might open some doors for you, Blair. If you ever want to leave that corporate job. And do what? I asked. Follow in your footsteps? Mom's eyes narrowed. Don't use that tone with your sister. She's just trying to help you. I set down my fork carefully. I don't need help. I'm doing fine on my own. Fine, yes, Mom said with a sigh. But Emily is exceptional. Karen, Dad warned. But Mom wasn't stopping. She turned to me, her voice dropping to a near snarl. Your success means nothing. Your sister is my gold. The table fell silent. Emily looked uncomfortable, Dad shocked, and Mom? Mom looked like she'd just stated an obvious fact. And then I spoke up. What did you just say? I asked, my voice surprisingly steady despite the earthquake happening inside me. Mom blinked, suddenly aware of the tension around the table. I just meant that Emily's accomplishments are more meaningful. You work for a corporation that only cares about profits. No. I shook my head slowly. That's not what you said. You said my success means nothing. That Emily is your gold. Dad cleared his throat. Karen, that was completely inappropriate. Oh, don't be so dramatic, Mom said, waving her hand again. Blair knows I'm proud of her too. Do I? I looked directly at her. When was the last time you celebrated anything I accomplished without immediately comparing it to Emily? Emily shifted uncomfortably in her seat. Mom, Blair's accomplishments are really impressive. Landing the Anderson account is huge. See? Mom gestured toward Emily. Your sister supports you. Why are you making this into a big deal? I pushed my chair back. I need some air. The door opened again. Mom stood there, arms crossed. Dinner's getting cold. What are you all doing out here? Dad stood up. Karen, we need to talk. All of us. About what you said to Blair. I don't see what the big deal is, Mom said defensively. I was just being honest. No, Emily said, standing too. You were being cruel, and I won't be your gold if it means treating my sister like she's worthless. The living room felt smaller than usual as we all sat down. Mom perched on the edge of her chair like she was prepared to flee at any moment. This is ridiculous, she said. I made one comment. It wasn't one comment, I interrupted. It's been my entire life, Mom. Nothing I do is ever good enough for you. That's not true. I've always supported you. Dad leaned forward. Karen, when was the last time you praised Blair without comparing her to Emily or minimizing her achievements? Mom opened her mouth, then closed it again. Emily spoke up. Mom, I've noticed it too. You treat us completely differently. Because you are different, Mom exclaimed. Emily has always been special. She was born for great things. I felt that familiar ache in my chest. And I wasn't? That's not what I meant, Mom said. But her hesitation said everything. It is what you meant, I said quietly. You've always seen Emily as the special one and me as, what, the backup child? You're being dramatic, Mom insisted. Answer her question, Dad said firmly. Mom looked cornered. I don't know what you want me to say. Emily has always been extraordinary. She's beautiful, charismatic, everyone loves her. You're more ordinary, Blair. That's just how it is. The room went silent. Emily looked horrified. Mom, she finally gasped. How can you say that? It's fine, I said, though it wasn't. At least now we're being honest. Honest? Dad's voice rose. There's nothing honest about what you just said, Karen. It's cruel and it's wrong. I'm just stating facts, Mom insisted. Blair has a nice corporate job. Emily is changing the world. I stood up slowly. I've built my career from nothing. I work 70-hour weeks. I've earned every promotion, every client. I'm respected in my field. But none of that matters to you because it's not what Emily does. Now you're twisting my words. No, I cut her off. For once in my life, I'm hearing them clearly, and so is everyone else in this room. Mom turned to Emily for support. You understand what I'm trying to say, don't you? Emily shook her head. No, Mom, I don't. What you're saying is horrible. This is ridiculous. Mom stood up. I've done nothing but support both of you your entire lives. I'm not going to sit here and be attacked in my own home. Karen, Dad's voice was low and serious. Sit down. This conversation isn't over. I think it is, she snapped, heading for the door. If you walk out, I said calmly, things will never be the same between us. I'm done pretending your behavior is okay. She paused at the doorway. Are you threatening me? I'm setting a boundary, I replied. For the first time in my life. Mom slowly turned back to face us. What exactly do you want from me, Blair? I want you to acknowledge that what you said was hurtful. I want you to understand that you've been playing favorites our entire lives, and I want it to stop. I don't play favorites, she insisted, but her voice lacked conviction. Emily stood up. You do, Mom, and it needs to stop. It's not fair to Blair, and it puts me in a terrible position. What position? Being appreciated? Being used, Emily corrected. You use my accomplishments as a weapon against my sister. That's not love. Mom's face crumpled slightly. That's not what I'm doing. It is, Dad said gently. Maybe you don't realize it, but that's exactly what you're doing. I took a deep breath. I need to know why, Mom. Why have you always treated us so differently? She sank back into her chair. For a long moment, she was silent. Then she spoke quietly. You remind me of my sister. This was unexpected. Mom rarely mentioned her estranged sister. Your Aunt Rachel was always the responsible one, Mom continued. Sensible, practical, everyone respected her, but they loved me. I was the charming one, the special one. She looked up at me. When you were born, you had that same serious look Rachel always had. And Emily, she was like me. So you've been projecting your own sibling rivalry onto us our entire lives? I asked incredulously. Mom looked away. I wouldn't put it that way. How would you put it? Dad asked. I understand Emily better. We're more alike. I nodded slowly. And you respect Aunt Rachel? But you don't really like her, do you? Mom's silence was answer enough. I'm not Aunt Rachel, I said firmly. I'm your daughter, and I deserved better than this. What do you want me to do? Mom asked. And for once, she sounded uncertain. I want you to work on this. Really work on it. Maybe with a family therapist. Therapy? Mom scoffed. Yes, therapy, Dad said. Or you risk losing your relationship with Blair. With all of us. Emily moved to sit next to Mom. I won't be your golden child anymore, Mom. Not if it hurts my sister. Mom looked between us, something shifting in her expression. I never meant to hurt you, Blair. But you did, I said. Repeatedly. And tonight wasn't the first time. I'm sorry, she said, the words sounding foreign on her lips. I appreciate that, I replied. But an apology isn't enough. Things need to change. The next morning, I met Alex for coffee and recounted everything that had happened after our call. So she actually apologized? Alex asked, surprised. She did. It's a start, but we have a long way to go. I stirred my coffee. Dad found a family therapist. First session is next week. Will you go? I nodded. Yes. This isn't about punishing my mother. It's about healing our family. How do you feel? Alex asked. Lighter, I said after a moment. Like I've been carrying this weight my whole life, and now I've finally set it down. I don't know if things with Mom will ever be completely right, but for the first time, I'm standing up for myself. I'm proud of you, Alex said. My phone buzzed with a text from Emily. Lunch today? Just us sisters? I smiled as I typed back, absolutely. 2 hours later, Emily and I sat across from each other at our favorite cafe downtown. I've been thinking a lot about everything, Emily said, stirring her latte. I'm really sorry I didn't say something sooner. You were put in an impossible position, I replied. It wasn't your responsibility to fix Mom's behavior. Maybe not, but I could have supported you more. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. I need you to know that I've always admired you, Blair. I raised an eyebrow. Really? Yes, really. Emily's eyes were sincere. You're brilliant and determined. You don't need anyone's approval to succeed. I've always wished I had your independence. That's not what I expected to hear. I know. Emily smiled sadly. Mom created this competition between us that never needed to exist. I don't want to compete with you. I want to be your sister. I'd like that, I said, feeling a warmth I hadn't felt around Emily in years. The following Thursday, we all sat in Dr. Michael's office for our first family therapy session. Mom sat stiffly, clearly uncomfortable but present nonetheless. I'd like to start by establishing some ground rules, Dr. Michaels began. Everyone gets a chance to speak without interruption. We focus on feelings and experiences, not accusations. I'm not sure why we need to be here, Mom said. We could just talk at home. We've tried that, Dad pointed out gently. For years. Mrs. Lawson, Dr. Michaels addressed Mom directly. What would you like to get out of these sessions? Mom hesitated, then glanced at me. I want my daughters to know I love them both. That's a good start, Dr. Michaels nodded. Blair, what about you? I took a deep breath. I want to understand why I was never enough, and I want to learn how to have a relationship with my mother where I don't feel diminished every time we interact. Mom began, then stopped herself. I didn't realize that's how you felt. That's why we're here, Emily said. To really hear each other, maybe for the first time. I looked around at my family. Dad's quiet strength, Emily's newfound solidarity, and Mom's uncertain but present engagement. This wouldn't be easy, but it was a beginning. You know, I told Alex later that week, looking up from my phone, I spent so long trying to earn my mother's approval. I never realized that what I really needed was to approve of myself. So what's next for you? I took a sip of my coffee, considering the question. Living my life on my own terms, not seeking validation from someone who isn't equipped to give it. And maybe, I smiled, becoming the kind of person who helps others find their voice too. In the 3 months since that fateful dinner, things have changed. Mom and I still struggle, but now we're actually talking. Really talking. She's trying, in her way. And I'm learning that standing up for myself isn't just a one-time event, it's a daily practice. What would you do if someone in your family constantly dismissed your achievements? Have you ever had to set boundaries with a parent? I'd love to hear your thoughts.